There's a version of a politician getting caught where they bluster, they change the subject. There's go a bit red-faced, and it's fine. It happens all the time.
You think it's right to smoke in a car if you've got children in the car?
I think you'll find that the law. I can't recall now if the law changed or not. I think it probably did, but
I think it did.
I'm not getting into.
And then there's a version where they look straight at the journalist and deny something the journalist is holding in their hand. Nigel Farage this week did the second one.
You clearly told me you did not want the NHS to be funded through general taxation. You said it doesn't work. You literally, you did.
You never said. I'm really sorry.
You said it doesn't work. It's not working.
That the rich might have to pay for healthcare. I find that a very odd position for it to
but
be in.
Just to be clear, do you want it still funded through general taxation, or you think you need to look at the funding model?
I do not want it funded through general taxation.
Right, okay.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
It's not working. We're getting worse bang for the buck than any other country, particularly out of those European neighbours. I want it free at the point of delivery, but it's how we get there.
Is that still your position?
It's never been my position.
I've got the transcript here.
It's never been my position. The NHS is funded through general taxation. The question is, what do you do with the money and how do you spend the money?
Beth Rigby had just told him that a year ago, ahead of last year's local elections, he had said very clearly that he did not want the NHS funded through general taxation, that it doesn't work. And his response was, well, that's not my position. Now, the interesting part isn't the denial. I mean, politicians deny things on camera all the time, and it usually just means nothing, except they'll think that, you'll forget about it. The interesting part is what he said next, because after Rigby read that quote back, Farage didn't retract the denial. He just pivoted. Same position, but just new words.
I've never, ever...
Nigel, I've got the quote here.
No,
I said, just to be clear, do you think it should still be funded through general taxation? You think you need to look at the funding model? You said, I do not want it funded through general taxation. It doesn't work. It's not working. We're getting worse bang for the buck. I want it free at the point of delivery, but it's how we get there.
It's exactly.
So you do want it funded through general taxation.
So the money is taken in through taxation. The question then is, how do you spend the money? And there are other models in our European neighbours where taxpayers' money is farmed out through efficient, competitive ways that gets better bang for the buck. There's no contradiction there.
Farmed out through efficient, competent ways. When he spells out even more clearly, if public money is better spent through insurance companies or even private companies competing for hip replacements, if we get more people treated, so much the better.
At all. None whatsoever.
So you still want to look at insurance models, potentially?
I want to look at how the money we pay to the government is spent. And if public money is better spent through insurance companies or even private companies competing for hip replacements, if we get more people being treated, so much the better.
So let's be precise about what that is. That is not the NHS. The NHS is publicly funded, a publicly run system. What Farage is describing, money collected through taxation, then distributed to insurance companies and private providers competing for contracts, is how France and Germany run their healthcare. And I'm pretty sure that they're, fine systems, but neither of them is the NHS. The sleight of hand that he's relying on is the phrase, free at the point of delivery. He uses it as a kind of like a shield. So as long as you don't pay when you walk through the front door, he can describe almost any system and call it the same thing. But free at the point of delivery has never been the whole definition of the NHS. The NHS is free at the point of delivery and publicly run and accountable to the public rather than its shareholders. Farage wants the first bit. He's very, very vague about how to get the rest. So, to be clear, what he's proposing, when he says that he wants to look at how the money is spent through insurance companies or private companies competing, that is privatisation of the NHS delivery. I mean, he can dress it up in as many GDP percentages as he likes. Speaking of which, he actually cited figures, as he always does when he tries to sound like he's doing his research.
And this is what's so awkward about this. We've gone from being 7.5% of GDP to 11.5% of GDP in the last few years. Expenditure on health, with fewer hospital beds, with worse outcomes. This isn't working. What I'm trying to work out is, how do we get better bang for our buck? The fundamental model is something we believe in. We all pay according to income. And we all have the access to it being free at the point of delivery. The bit in the middle is going horribly wrong.
He said that the NHS spending had gone from around 7% of GDP to 11.5%, with fewer hospital beds and worse outcomes. The spending trajectory is broadly accurate, but here's the thing. The worst outcomes after years of Conservative funding, workforce cuts and pandemic is not an argument for privatising the delivery model. It's an argument against the people who ran it into the ground, which, unless Farage start criticising 14 years of Conservative government, is a conclusion he probably wants to avoid. So where does this leave us? Farage denied saying something, journalist had the quote and was read the quote. He then proceeded to describe, in slightly different language, the same position that he had denied holding. He wants insurance companies involved in healthcare delivery. He wants private providers competing for NHS contracts. He will not say this plainly because he knows what it sounds like, because he knows what it is. So instead, he talks about it being the bang for the buck and the European models and how the money is spent, and hopes, free at the point of delivery, does enough work to stop anyone looking too closely at the rest. It's not a complicated trick, but it works if nobody points it out.